HOA cited me for owning firearms. Federal judge threw it out and fined them for harassment. Have you ever wondered what happens when a neighborhood watchdog oversteps its bounds and tries to strip you of your constitutional rights? In the quiet suburb of Willow Creek, Texas, where picket fences and manicured lawns painted a picture of suburban bliss, Mark Thompson thought he'd found the perfect place to raise his family. A retired veteran, Mark valued his privacy and his rights, especially his Second Amendment right to bear arms. But what started as a dream home turned into a nightmare when the Willow Creek Homeowners Association, HOA, decided his legally owned firearms were a threat to their pristine community. They slapped him with a violation notice, demanding he remove all guns from his property or face crippling fines. The audacity was staggering. Mark wasn't brandishing weapons or causing trouble. He was simply exercising his constitutional protections. The HOA's move wasn't just a rule. It was a declaration of war on his freedoms. Mark wasn't one to back down. A man who'd served 2 tours overseas, he'd faced worse than a board of nosy neighbors. The violation notice arrived in his mailbox like an ambush, citing a newly amended HOA rule banning firearms in all homes within the community. The letter was cold, accusing him of endangering the safety of residents and threatening daily fines of $500 until he complied. Mark's blood boiled. He'd lived in Willow Creek for 3 years without issue, his firearms securely stored and never once used in the neighborhood. He reached out to the HOA board, expecting a misunderstanding, but was met with smug condescension. The board president, Karen, a self-appointed guardian of community standards, dismissed his concerns. "Rules are rules, Mr. Thompson," she said at a heated board meeting, her voice dripping with authority. "If you don't like them, you can leave." What Karen and the board didn't expect was Mark's resolve. He wasn't just fighting for himself. He was fighting for principle. Digging into the HOA's governing documents, he found no mention of firearm bans in the original covenants. The rule was a recent addition, pushed through at a poorly attended meeting where Karen and her allies steamrolled dissenting voices. Mark contacted a lawyer, Sarah Delgado, a fierce advocate for constitutional rights who'd taken on overzealous HOAs before. Sarah uncovered a twist. One of Mark's neighbors, Tom Rivera, a quiet accountant who'd recently joined the board, had tried to warn residents about the rule change but was silenced by Karen's clique. Tom, a gun owner himself, became an unlikely ally, leaking internal emails that revealed Karen's personal vendetta against firearms, fueled by her belief that they didn't belong in a civilized community. The emails were damning, showing Karen pressuring board members to pass the rule without proper notice or a vote, violating Texas HOA laws requiring transparency. The battle lines were drawn. Mark and Sarah filed a lawsuit in federal court, arguing the HOA's rule violated his Second Amendment rights in Texas state law, which protects the right to possess firearms in one's home. The case drew attention, with local gun rights groups rallying behind Mark and national media picking up the story. Karen, unfazed, doubled down, hiring a high-priced attorney to defend the HOA's right to maintain a safe community. At the first court hearing, she sat smugly, arms crossed, as her lawyer argued that the HOA's authority superseded individual rights for the greater good. Mark's neighbors were divided. Some supported the HOA fearing guns in their midst, while others, including Tom, saw the rule as a dangerous overreach. The tension in Willow Creek was palpable, with whispers at mailboxes and heated debates at community picnics. One neighbor, an elderly widow named Clara, told Mark she felt safer knowing he was armed, a quiet voice of support that kept him going. The courtroom became a battlefield. Sarah presented a compelling case, citing landmark Supreme Court rulings like District of Columbia versus Heller, which affirmed an individual's right to keep firearms in their home for self-defense. She argued the HOA's rule was not only unenforceable, but a blatant violation of federal and state protections. The emails from Tom exposed the HOA's bad faith, showing Karen's rule was less about safety and more about control. The judge, a no-nonsense Texan named Judge Harlan, grew visibly irritated as Karen's attorney stumbled through weak defenses, claiming the HOA could regulate anything it deemed a nuisance. In a dramatic twist, Sarah called Tom to the stand, where he testified about Karen's bullying tactics and her refusal to follow proper procedure. The courtroom buzzed as Tom revealed Karen had threatened to fine him for speaking out, exposing her pattern of intimidation. Karen's facade began to crack. Under cross-examination, she faltered, unable to justify the rule's legality or her secretive methods. The HOA's attorney tried to pivot, arguing the business judgment rule protected the board's decisions, but Judge Harlan wasn't buying it. The Second Amendment isn't a suggestion, he snapped, his voice echoing through the courtroom. And neither is due process. In a stunning ruling, he declared the HOA's firearm ban unconstitutional and unenforceable, citing its violation of Mark's rights and Texas law. But the judge didn't stop there. Recognizing the HOA's harassment piling on fines and sending threatening letters despite Mark's compliance with all legal standards, she ordered the HOA to pay $25,000 in punitive damages for malicious overreach and cover Mark's legal fees, totaling nearly $50,000. The courtroom erupted in gasps, with Karen's face turning ashen as the gavel fell. The fallout was swift and brutal. Karen resigned from the HOA board in disgrace, her reputation in Willow Creek shredded. The community held an emergency meeting, where residents voted to replace the entire board with new members, including Tom, who promised transparency and fairness. The fines against Mark were dropped, and the HOA issued a public apology, a rare admission of defeat. Karen, once the queen of Willow Creek's social scene, became a pariah, her name synonymous with overreach. Neighbors who'd once feared her whispered about her fall from grace as she quietly put her house up for sale, unable to face the community she tried to dominate. Mark's victory wasn't just personal, it was a beacon for others. News of the ruling spread, inspiring homeowners across the country to challenge their own HOAs when rules crossed legal lines. Mark, ever the soldier, didn't gloat. Instead, he organized a neighborhood watch program, teaching residents about their rights and fostering unity in a community fractured by Karen's reign. Clara, the elderly widow, baked him a pie, her way of saying thank you for standing up for what was right. As Mark sat on his porch, his family safe and his rights intact, he felt a quiet pride. He'd fought a battle not just for himself, but for every homeowner who refused to let petty tyrants rewrite the Constitution. What do you think? Was Mark's fight a stand for freedom, or did the HOA have a point in trying to regulate for safety? Share your thoughts. Where do you draw the line between community rules and individual rights?